Okay, I propose we start. We're expecting 2 or 3 more participants from France, but they'll come along and they'll join us while we start. So as an introduction, well, thank you. We're very happy to welcome you to this second webinar we're co-organizing with the National Park Service of Korea and the French Inter-Network of Protected Areas. So the exchanges between our 2 countries have begun since the beginning of the year, this year, but it was after a first contact which was established during the IUCN World Congress in Marseille, so with Florent and Hong. So after that, we had the first small exchanges and the first webinar in June. So just Florent, myself, Hong, and some of his colleagues. It was just a way to present the different protected area systems in our countries. And it was also the occasion to identify cooperation, insights, or ideas, and common issues. And one issue we identified was about visitor management in protected areas. So we decided to organize this webinar in order to share best practices and to give insights on the different actions that are being undertaken in our countries on this issue. So we hope you find it useful and interesting, and maybe it will inspire you for future cooperation ideas between our 2 countries. So we presented each other, so thank you. And the webinar is organized in 2 sessions. The first session is going to give us a general overview of the different actions undertaken in our countries. So Corentin Mercier will present what's going on in French national parks. And your colleague, which I hope I'm going to say the name right, Mrs. Yang Si-yoon is going to present the different actions and experiments undertaken in Korea. And we'll have a short time for questions and answers on this part. And the second part of the webinar is going to talk about more concrete actions regarding visitor management. So Christelle Bakash, who hopefully is going to join us, will present concrete actions in natural reserve in Haute-Savoie. And before that, your director, Hong, is going to present the history of the fee and the no-fee policy in Korea. And we'll also have a second time for questions and answers. Hong, if you want to complete, please feel free to do it.
You explained quite in detail, so I think we are quite ready to start. So according to the schedule, you could start the first presentation.
Yes. So Corentin, can you share your screen, please? And while we're doing that, we are recording the webinar, so we can broadcast it later to other participants who could be interested.
Hi, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Corentin Mercier. I'm the delegate for the French National Parks. So it means I'm in charge of the coordination of our network of national parks. So I will go along an overview of what we are attempting to do about overcrowding regulation. So just some elements of context on French national parks. So it's a network of 11 parks covering something like 5 million hectares of French territories. So now I will be quick on all this. So there's a lot of different ecosystems protected. And just let me explain you the main missions of French national parks. So our first mission is to preserve nature, biodiversity, and also our cultural heritage. our second.
Excuse me. So actually, your voice is a bit too low, so we can't hear. So can you adjust your mic, or can you speak a bit loudly, please?
Okay, I will try to speak louder. Can you hear me now? Is it better? No.
Also, it's not really good, yeah.
Let me. I've got no other means here with me. So let me try. Let me try another option.
Yeah, take your time. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to try something else.
And now, can you hear me better?
Yeah, it's a lot better. Yeah.
It's a lot better. Okay, perfect. So should I restart or? Well,
As you wish, Corentin.
You know, national parks. Just one of my aim at the beginning was to highlight the fact that our second main mission is to share nature with everybody, with visitors. And so you see the last point on the last bullet on this slide. All our national parks have a free and open access for everybody. And it has always been like that since the creation of the French law on national park in 1960. So that's really one of the specificity of our national park network. There's no fee at all. So it means that we have to deal with the people coming into our parks, and now we also have to deal with overcrowding, over-frequentation. And it's quite a new phenomenon, but we do not have the possibility to ask for some fees, and so it's then a real challenge for us to regulate and mitigate frequentation. So one of the consequences of this is that we are now seeing in our territories, in our national park territories, some overcrowding. We had a constant increase in visitors for years now, and over the last maybe 3-4 years, it really exploded, and there's a real desire for nature in the French population. And we also see a post-COVID effect where all the people who spent months and nearly a year in their flats are will to go into nature. So currently there's something like 10 million visitors per year in a French national park, over 5 million hectares, but there's a concentration of those people, especially by the sea. We've got 3 national parks which are by the sea, the Parc National des Calanques in Marseille, Parc National de Port-Cros, et le Parc National de Guadeloupe. And in all those 3 national parks, we really see some things that are not in line with what someone should think about national parks. So we get some things like that on the beaches in Port-Cros, for instance. So there's really overcrowding. It's true by the sea on beaches. It's true at sea also. Or you can see a lot of both in what is a national park. And so there's a huge, but a real huge issue dealing with overcrowding, because it has, of course, some impacts on biodiversity, on erosion of habitats, but it also has an impact on visitor experience. Of course, it's not very good when you want to spend some nice time in national park and you feel like you are in the very center of a city. So that's why on this concept we are trying to mitigate overcrowding. But we are trying, and let me just say we are attempting to mitigate, as we don't have fee policy possibility. So we are starting to try to mitigate, and basically we've got 3 policy pillars for mitigation. The first one is information, the second one is infrastructure, and the third one is regulation. So I'm going to present quite quickly what we are doing over these 3 pillars. But again, it's attempts, it's not, it's work in progress, it's experimentation. So timely and informed communication. We have currently an experimentation in the Kelang National Park, where we are using mobile apps to inform live the visitors or the possible visitors. So we've got a network of captors with which we see the number of people live, and we put this information on our mobile app, where you can see on the left of the screen the red dots or the lights over yellow dots. Those dots mean that, for instance, the Sujiton Kelang is already being overcrowded. So you should go to another place. It's just information, but it's already a first step for to inform visitors. In category, we also of the information policy pillar, we also use what we call demarketing. So often the communication on national parks is very laudative, is very, you only see on our website, you used to only see very nice pictures of pristine beaches or mountains without anybody and very nice animals. So now we are trying to we change our way to communicate, and we are trying to tell the truth about the crowds. So what you see on the screen is an extract of our websites. So it says what you are really going to experience if you go to Kelang National Parks. So the truth on the overcrowding. We are also telling the truth on what you should expect in terms of difficulty to access. It's a very hot place, for instance, where you have to go up and down through difficult mountains. So that's another way also to try to prevent, in fact, people to come, or at least people who don't want to go to a overcrowded place. A third way of dealing with information is it's not really to mitigate the number of visitors, but it's to mitigate their effects on biodiversity, for instance. So basically, what you see on the left upper corner is the normal signalization in parks, for instance. It means there that you don't have to make noise and you have to got your dog on a leak. So that's what you see in every national parks in France. But some national parks are trying to make funny signs and to make sense, to explain better the regulations to the visitor. So that's what you see on the other corner. So all those were information tools or nudges to mitigate frequentation. And now some example, we are also working on infrastructure to mitigate frequentation. Basically, the idea is to make access more difficult for the visitor. And basically, it means pushing cars and whole motors away from the entrance of national parks. So again, an example from Marseille and the Calanque National Park. On the left side of the screen, you see the red line is the current road going to the entrance of the park. And so with a work with local authorities, we are trying to set new parkings away from the entrances. So you see on phase 2 on the right of the screen, what used to be red is now yellow. So you won't have access by car on this part of the road. And years after year, we are trying with local authorities to get some more yellow and less red and pushing away cars. Again, the very idea is to make it more difficult to go into the park. But it's not only negative. We are using those new infrastructure to improve the visitor experience. For instance, this photo is coming from the Vanoise National Park, where when we pushed away cars and closed some roads, we also opened some new gate for the park with some new infrastructure for visitors. So it's not only just pushing people away, it's also trying to take this opportunity to improve visitor experience. The third point is regulation. So that's quite new. And again, I will speak about Calanque, which is a more impact. Yeah, it's the worst park in terms of frequentation. This summer, we had a very good experimentation on reservation. So to access the Sugiton Calanque, which is a very nice beach in the very core heart of a park, you had to make a prior booking. So it was from very in the middle of the summer, when it's the worst period in terms of frequentation, from the 10th of July to the 21st of August. Usually during this period, you see something like 2,500 people coming into this onto this beach, but there's maybe something like 500 places on the beach. So we opened to booking only 400 persons per day. So you had to book on the internet, and then there were some people at the entrance of the beach where you had to show your phone with a reservation. So it was free, no fee, but you had to make a prior booking. And the result of this experimentation was really, really good. We had no problem to contain the angry or not satisfied people who did not get the right to go to the beach, and the people who had access to the beach were really, really happy. And we already seen just something like 6 or 7 weeks of reservation, some impact on erosion. So we may extend this experimentation next year. There's the same kind of things done in another national park called the Porto, nearby in the Mediterranean coast, where it's a mixture of regulation and infrastructure. It's a place where there used to be a lot of boats anchoring into next to the island, and anchoring had a terrible effect on Posidonie algae. And the park decided to both forbid anchoring and create a new infrastructure of buoy that you can see on the screen. So now you've got the obligation to move on a buoy. So basically it stops the effect on the algae. And there's also an obligation to book, to have a prior booking. And there, as it's not the entrance itself in the park, we have the possibility to make the people pay. So you have to pay per night, per bureau. And that's working pretty well. So yeah, I'm finished. It was a really quick overview of what we are trying to do to mitigate fréquentation. So there's those three pillars: information, infrastructure, regulations. We still have to go further, to change scale in terms of regulation, adapt ourselves to bigger territories. But maybe at some point, and we will have to speak about fees. And it's not in our culture, it's not in our law, but I'm very interested in what you are going to tell us about fee or no fee policy in Korea, because it will for sure inform our thinking on regulation here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Corentin.
I hope you heard me clear and loud.
Yes, good. So, Hong, if you would like to share your presentation with us, we're going to have a question just after the two presentations, if that's okay with everyone.
Okay. So.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, then I will start my presentation. Hello, I will introduce about me again. I'm Jang So-yoon. If it's quite difficult to pronunciate, you can just call me Sue. And I work for Visitor Policy Division in KNPS. And I am in charge of visitor number management now. So today I will introduce about visitor number management of Korea National Park. First, I will talk about our visitor number counting system, and then some examples of the policies or services which are based on the visitor number data. Now let's move on to the first chapter. We will see the necessity of visitor number management, the method of visitor number counting, and the analysis of visitor number data. Why do we have to monitor the visitor number of national park? National park is the area that must be strictly protected, and it is also has to provide it with service for the public. So it is important to keep balance between preservation and usage. To manage national park, keeping the balance, concept of environmental capacity, sustainable use, carrying capacity have to be considered. As we know, the self-purification capacity of nature and quantity of the natural resources have a limit. We call the maximum demand for sustainable use of the natural resources environmental capacity. And to keep the natural resources sustainable, the appropriate carrying capacity have to be set to set the standard for the park management. That is why it is necessary to monitor visitor characteristics such as visitor number counting or their national park use behavior, and establish the park management policy by analyzing the result of the monitoring. Trail reservation system and trail congestion information service are the examples of the policies which I will explain in chapter 2. Now I will introduce the method of visitor number counting. There was a change in the method of visitor number counting as from 2007, when the entrance fee was abolished. Before 2007, we measured the number of visitors based on ticket sales. However, after the entrance fee was abolished in 2007, we started to measure the visitor number using an electronic counter, which is installed at the entrance of trails. Currently, we count the visitor number at 358 counting points. There are various types of electronic counter depending on the type of the trail. There are 2 examples which are most commonly used in Korea National Park. The first type is the gate type counter, which is only for pedestrians and uses infrared motion detective sensor. The second type is called overhead type counter, which is both for pedestrians and cars, and it uses thermal sensor. The electronic counter transmits the total result to the visitor number survey system automatically in real time. We can check the real-time visitor number data on the system. We can also modify the number in some cases because some areas, such as an island, we could not use the electronic counter, but we use the ticket sales data from a shipping company. So we have to add those kind of data on the system. After that modifying, we confirm the official figures. And this is the picture of the system. And by analyzing visitor number, we can figure out some useful facts. The graph shows the change aspect of Korea National Park visitor number from 2001 to 2021. We can see the visitor number soared after the entrance fee abolished in 2007. And before COVID-19, approximately 43 million visited Korea National Park per year. However, because of COVID-19, visitor number decreased in 2020 and 2021, and it is increasing again gradually this year. We also can figure out more detailed characteristics by the visitor number, such as when, where the visitors concentrate. For example, in mountainous national parks, visitors concentrate in the fall because of the autumn colors. In case of Taebaeksan and Deoksan National Park, even though they are mountainous national parks, visitors concentrate in the winter because they are famous for their snow scene. In marine and coastal national parks, visitors concentrate in the summer. In terms of location, national parks in the center of the city, such as Bukhansan, Mudungsan, Gyeongsan National Park, attract more visitors than other national parks because they are easy to access by subway or bus. Also, there are differences according to the day. Usually, national parks are national parks are spacious on weekdays, but they are very crowded on weekends and holidays. In addition, it can be analyzed by trails, which trail is particularly crowded in which season. And using this information, we establish visitor policies to manage park to be sustainable. From now on, I will introduce some examples of visitor policies or services we are implementing based on the visitor number information. Actually, there is two examples. Trail reservation system is the similar one that Quarantine had told us the similar policy is running in France also. We also have trail reservation system. And the second one is trail congestion information service. Now I will explain trail reservation system first. This policy is established to protect natural resources from overuse of national park and provide pleasant exploration conditions for visitors and also protect visitors against accidents. This is the policy of setting the maximum capacity of visitor number in particular trail, and only reserved visitors are allowed to enter, same as yours. And you can see the case in Seoraksan National Park in the picture below. The picture on the left is taken before the trail reservation system is implemented. You can see there are so many visitors. It never looks pleasant, and it seems clear that it will affect the natural environment. The picture on the right side is taken after the system implemented. You can definitely see that the environment has become more comfortable. Those two are the same trails, but the condition looks totally different. The policy was first implemented in Jirisan in 2008. Now, 33 trails in 21 national parks are being managed by the system. And the other example that I will show you is Trail Congestion Information Service. We provide a service to show trail congestion information by using real-time data from electronic counters. This is a service that classifies the congestion situation of park trails into 3 levels: crowded, normal, and spacious. We provide the information in real time through a web page. Crowded trails are displayed in red, normal trails are shown in yellow, and spacious trails are displayed in green. The method of calculating congestion level is as follows. First, calculate the appropriate number of people for the trail area by dividing the trail area by the minimum required area per person. Then, divide the current number of people, which is counted by an electronic counter, by the appropriate number of people that we had calculated just before. Currently, 8 national parks are in service, and it is planned to expand to 21 national parks in this year. This service helps visitors to find the spacious trails, and it will help disperse the visitors in national park. Until now, I showed you the visitor number management of Korea National Park, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for this very clear presentation. We have a little time for questions, so if any of you have questions, please go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
It is.
Excuse me. We can hear.
Christelle, you go first, please. Christelle, you go first.
Okay. Christelle, you raise your
Okay,
hand.
sorry. Yeah, I had a question about the counters that you installed in Korea. Are they your own technology, or are you working with a private company for that?
We work with private company, and we had a contract, and they do a management for us.
Okay, and how many of you are working on those counts, like counting and analyzing the data? How many employees in the park work on visitor numbers?
입소된 카운팅하는데 몇 사람이나 어디 있는가 담당자가
우리
사무실에
회사에
한 명씩
사무소마다 한 명씩 있어요. One person manage the number in each national park.
Okay.
한 달에 어떻게 정리해서 보고하자.
맞습니다.
교수님
And each employees,
Actually, as she said, there's one person who is in charge of counting the number of data. So monthly, they make a small report, and then they send it to the head office. So actually, she's in charge at head office, so she kind of can get to know all data monthly.
Okay, very impressive.
Corentin, you had a question?
Thanks a lot for your presentation. I've got two questions. One on, are you able to count for every visitor through your counter system? I mean, are there people entering national parks through other trails or other ways and that do not go through the counter? And do you know, if true, do you know the proportion of people going through those other ways? And my second question was on the how did you set up the carrying capacity number for the trade reservation system? Is it based on environmental, on biodiversity level? So yeah, if you could go further into this.
For the first question, because I used to be in charge of the position, so I'm kind of know the things. So as she said in her presentation, there was 350 something the trails, which was where the counting system was installed. So that is a bit less than the total number of trails. So it's a kind of it is a bit costly to install and to manage the system. So where there are not many visitors, kind of we don't install. So for each national park, just we decide up to we don't really install in every single trail. So where only there are lots of visitors, so which can change the total number, like we install. And also in Korea, if designated on the designated trails, we count, but as he said, if there's some others who kind of how can I say, go out of the trail, so actually there's no way we count. But we have specialized patrol team, so they go to the mountain to patrol the salmon, to catch someone who come in out of the designated trail. So we believe the figure could be quite reliable.
After the abolition of admission fee, entrance fee, the most of the visitors, they do not hesitate to go straight to the main gate. They do not go around. So we can count the whole the visitor numbers, mostly about 85% above. There is an accurate number.
We think the portion is not that big that we couldn't catch the number. Did you understand?
네.
뭐라고?
안 잡히는 숫자가 많지 않은.
And so the rest of the 50%, which cannot be counted by the mechanism, it doesn't matter for us to making decision. Understand me? And carrying capacity and about the environment capacity, how do we count it? Explain.
There we had a research to make a calculation formula to make capacity, carrying capacity by considering stamping degree or other things. There we made a research in 연구원.
Yes, we have the Korea KAPS. We have our own institution who working on and who study on the how we could manage it better the national park. We have our own institution. What is that? Our institutions studying body, and there are many doctors and professors there who work there, and they working out the imagine or the calculating the capacity. They got some technical experience there, or we also give this job this one to near university. They calculate the capacity of each park, and they give us that data, and by the data we decide how many people we going to accumulate to come in, to let them come in. So that is the basic system for reserving system, reservation system. Hopefully understand me.
And I can check up that if I can share you the research if you want.
Yes.
We can also give you the research result data. If you want, we can give you a sample data about the capacity calculating.
Yes, that was my question. I would be very interested to understand the methodology you have used for calculating the carrying capacity and the environmental capacity, because that's something we are facing. And when we tried on some of the trails, the results were something like 300 people a day, where we have 3,000. So it's a result, but it's a difficult one to implement if you have to divide it by 10. So if you have other methods, it would be very interesting. And if you have that in English, that's great.
Actually, the capacity for each trail was actually the question I was going to ask quarantine. But you asked the first. That is kind of the issue in Korea as well. So,
yeah.
After yes, quarantine.
I may react on this issue of carrying capacity evaluation. In fact, at the very start, we started on I guess on nearly the same way as you did, trying to base our carrying capacity numbers on biodiversity factors, environmental factors, it was quite difficult, in fact. And in the end, we were challenged in the court by some people. So and saying, "Oh, that's not a good methodology." And so when it went into the court, it did not work. So now we are not biodiversity or environmental factors to set up our carrying capacity. We use the visitor experience. And for instance, in the island of Porquerolles, there were a very net threshold of 6,000 people per day. Under this threshold, there were something like maybe 70% of the population thinking that they had a good visitor experience. And when you go up, when you have more than 6,000 people per day, the satisfaction of the visitor were decreasing very, very significantly. So that's on that visitor experience factor that we set up the limit of 6,000. Yeah, and I'm also very interested in what you told us about the way you count people, because we used to have also the same kind of system you had, but as most of the national parks in France don't have a specific main entrance, there are people entering from everywhere, and we were not catching up half of the people entering the park. So we decided to give up with this system. But we did some experimentation with cell phones, and so trying to see how many cell phones are I don't know the English, are you can there is in the territory of the park, and so we may extend this methodology to other parks, but for the moment it's still in an experimentation.
Hong, your microphone is off on your side. Thank you.
Yes. In case of Korea, when we collect the entrance fee from the 1970 to 2006, before we collect the fee, we put the fences all around the park except the gate. But actually, in case of a Marine National Park or Seashore National Park, it is very hard to put the fences on, because there are so many entrances near along the road. There are so many beaches, and people go inside every beaches. Any beach they want to, they stop by too. But we did collect the entrance fee at the time by on the road. We put the small kiosk on the road, and we stop the car and let them pay the entrance fee. It was about 20 years ago. Well, that's the way we did. But excuse me. But actually there was some leakage. So we cannot collect the whole money from the visitors at that times. But about the 70 or 80% visitors they paid, and with that money we fund them to the park management expenses. That money, the collected money is reused for the expense of the park management. So people are not. They are not. They are very. They are not so much, but they are quite a bit favorable to have to get to collect the fee, collect the money. They are not 100% objective. Most of them they believe, oh yes, we need to pay because the money go back to the management expenses for the conservation of nature, and also the giving a more comfortable facilities, and that way, so they are very affirmative. I mean, they say, okay, no problem, paying the fee at the time. Good. And I have a question about your presentation. And when I saw your presentation, and the overcrowding is the very big problem in your country, and you are doing good. I guess you are doing good by giving the information and controlling the infrastructures and also regulations. That's good. That is the way we are doing in Korea too. But before you want to collect the entrance fee, you need to. This is my own private opinion, but you need to first. I guess this is my own private opinion. You need to first have a big good message, visionary message, to tell your people that we are going to collect the entrance fee because of what? Why we cannot avoid collecting this money from you. People will not say okay right away, because they always paying the taxes now. They are paying the taxes now, so they will not be willing to say okay for the collecting the money at first. But so you need to make up a big visionary mission and visionary messages or justification to justify why we should collect the entrance fee. It could be for your conserve more nature good, more conserve the nature more better, or with that money we will give service, more good service to you, or more comfortable facilities for you, and some kinds of the visionary message is the first, and then you can ask your whole French people about the opinion poll. Do you carry an opinion poll about do you okay for the collecting the money or not? Ask them, and with that visionary message, I think you need to carry some opinion poll there. And as you're going to hear our second PT, there was the 70% of the repliers of the poll enquete. They say we are for the abolishing the entrance fee. 70% of the Korean people, they say yes, we want the park authority abolish the entrance fee. That was the main power for us to abolish the entrance fee. So I recommend you doing some opinion poll or enquete about this collecting the money. But what is important is your mission. I mean, the visionary message. Why we should collect the entrance fee. That is the I guess this is my own opinion, but that is a very crucial point, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. We're a little behind schedule, so maybe we move to the next part with your presentation on the fee and fee policy.
Okay. So actually, my presentation is a bit overlapped with the first presentation and just what our director, Mr. Hyun, said. So anyway, let's move. So in our previous meeting, I already gave you the general status of Korea National Park. But for the new participant, I would like to brief just shortly. Then park entrance fee policy, and also thirdly, abolition of park entrance fee, and lastly, the management change after abolitions. And the first about our agency, Korea National Park Service. We have about 3,000 employees in total. So 100.
I'm sorry. Are you sharing your screen? Do you have a presentation on? Because we're only seeing your folders.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, it's working now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So actually, the total number of employees about 3,000, and the permanent employees 260. But in Korea, we have a slightly different system. So roughly 1,400 are really permanent, who can get promoted, and we can change our status. But another 1,200, they are permanent workers, but they are just specialized, designated for a certain job. So they don't get promoted, but still like a permanent worker. But another 400 are under contract, like every year they renew their contract, but still they work like 40 hours a week. So in total, we could say we have 3,000 employees. And the total budget is about $400 million. That's very brief of our agency. And now about our national parks. In Korea, we have 22 national parks in total, 18 mountain type, 3 marine type, and 1 historical type. The total area is about 6,700, which is about 4% of Korea's territory. The number of visitors annually is 43 million. And the land ownership is quite like unique from compared to other countries. We have 68 national and public land. It's kind of owned by government, and 25% are private land, and 7% are owned by temples. The figure of the 7, I mean, the number of 7 seems the smallest, but but within the 7% area, the most visitation happens. So even though the portion is the smallest, but actually that's the core area for the management of national park. And now I'd like to talk about the park entrance fee policy. First, the history of the park entrance fee and admission fee for cultural heritages. Actually, that is owned by temples. And because of those 2 different types, we have 2 ways of collecting fees. Our national park was established in 1967. At the time, the fee was written in National Park Act. So that is a legal basis. The purpose was the beneficiary burden principle. If you use it, you have to pay. That's the principle. So like our directors mentioned, all the money from the entrance fee is used for park management expenses. So even though the law was made in 1967, actually the entrance fee first applied in 1970 at Songnisan National Park. At the time, there was 5 national parks in total. Actually, my director, Mr. Hyun, mentioned a bit about this. At the Mountain National Park, it was kind of not too difficult to collect an entrance fee because there was designated trail and there was ticket booth. So everyone has to go through the area. So it was kind of easy to collect. But on Marine Park, there was no exact entrance. So everyone can sneak into the show. So what we did was on the road, we set up the kiosk and we collected some money, but there were lots of people not going through the area. Then our rangers had to walk around with a bag to sell or to collect the tickets. So in your case, from your presentation before, you had a marine park and you had lots of people. So if you try to establish an entrance fee, that would be one of the concerns, how to set up the entrance fee system, to collect in terms of the infrastructure. That's my opinion, yeah. And the second one is, it's also about the temples. In Korea is Buddhist country. So there are a lot of cultural heritages related to temples, which are often located in the mountain. So most of our national parks are mountain type. So inside the national park, there are many, many really major temples in Korea. At the time, in 1960, even though our government designated cultural heritages, the temples didn't allow the public to watch their heritages because temple is a kind of private sector. So they could keep their land from having visitors. So our government decided to introduce admission fee for cultural heritages. By that, the government can give the right for the public to watch the cultural heritages. So that's how the admission fee started. And the park entrance fee started in 1970, and also the admission fee started in 1960. So there was 2 different types of fees, but our government decided it would be easier and more efficient to collect together at the same time. So where the traditional temples are located inside the national park, they start to collect those 2 fees together since 1975. So there are a couple of pictures of our cultural heritages. So all of them are related to temples. And also the 3 of them are listed on World Heritages. I already explained about this. So if there was no traditional temples, only park authorities used to collect park entrance fee. If there is a traditional temples exist, park authority and temples collect together those 2 fees. So as you know from the previous presentation, the park entrance fee was until 2006. But the admission fee for cultural heritages, they still exist. And also those are the temples which are very famous. And this is the picture of when the park entrance fee was established. This is the first operation, 1st January in 2007. So the background of entrance fee operations. Actually, there are two aspects to talk about this. The first one is change in social perception. The second, the government policy. Actually, Korea is a very fast developed country. So this is the GDP change for Korea. So from around 1990, it started to go up quite rapidly. Then around 2000, it's like really started growing even more. So since 2000, Korea has a high level of national education and income. So the public demands a bit more for the public welfare. And also there are two things. One is internal factor, and the second one is external factor. So 30% of the total employees committed to collecting the entrance fee. Because of that, it caused the manpower shortage to conserve our nature. And from the graph, you can see the 30% is quite a big portion for the one agency. So we kind of couldn't allocate people to do some other work. And also external factor was the growing civil complement. So if you see this picture, this is the protest against unreasonable admission fee. Because even though the public didn't intend to watch or decide to see the cultural heritages, they had to pay for the admission fee, even without watching it. So there was a big civil complement for that. The second factor was the government policy. Now you know in 2007, the entrance fee was abolished. So around this time, our president, our former president Roh Moo-hyun, he pursued universal welfare, not for only one, for everyone, and also working class oriented policy. So national park are for the whole citizens, not for government. So everyone deserves to visit. So that was the keynote of the policy. And that's why it was abolished in 2007. So our director already mentioned 70% agreed on abolishing the entrance fee. At the time, the fee was about $1.20 for each. Once again, admission fee for cultural heritage keeps remained. So maybe you cannot understand by one explanation. So this is a portal site. Actually, today I like something like a Google. So I Googled national park entrance fee. Then the thing shows up was not for national park entrance fee. What it showed up was admission fee for cultural heritages. So even at the moment, most of people in Korea believes there are national park entrance fee, even though it was gone like 15 years ago. So the reason is that they collect the money inside the national park entrance of the park, even though it is for the temples. Because of that, each national park have many entrances to enter the park. So actually the last picture, last weekend, I did hiking to the national park. And this area, can you see my the key, like the point? This is the place where the temple is located. And the other end, there was no temple. So if you go this side, you have to pay for the admission fee. But if you go enter the national park from this side, you don't have to pay for the admission fee. So kind of the visitors, the public, can choose which entrance they could enter. So actually, I chose the other side, not to pay for the admission fee. Lastly, the management change after abolition. And you already saw these figures from previous presentation. The number of the visitors went up about 50% compared to when the entrance fee was existed. And the hiking trend, actually in Korea, hiking is one of the most popular hobbies. So when it was peak, which was 2013 and 14, the number of visitors was the highest, like 46 millions. But currently, before COVID-19, it remains about 43 millions. So since COVID-19, it dropped about 20%. Actually, after abolition, the entrance fee, the total number of our employees are about the same, but the 30% of total, the 30% of employees used to be committed to ticketing, but now they don't have to sell the ticket. So the 30% can work on other important projects like visitor service, patrolling, natural resource monitoring. So they can do some other things to conserve our parks. And also the government got aware of we need more manpower because there are more and more visitors. So we introduced a new patrol team, so which was about 160, but nowadays around 400. So they are special. Their main task is to patrol around our parks. So after the entrance fee was abolished, so we have new visitor management policies. So I like to brief a few things. So trail reservation policies, you already know now, and going to the peak of the mountain takes time. So for visitors' safety, so each trail leading to the peak has time limiting to start. So if you really want to go up to the mountain, which is a high one, maybe you can start at 12 at latest. So each trail has their limited time limiting. And also in high season or in peak time, just it's like on the road, like allowing only one way to make it flow. So on certain trail, you can go only one way. You cannot come back. You already saw the automatic counting system we have. And also the top of the mountain is more vulnerable, more sensitive. So to conserve our park, we try to educate the public to hike or to trek like at the bottom of the mountain. So this is national park. So in the center is the peak, but the trail is just around the bottom of the mountain. So we try to encourage the visitors to visit the low part of the mountain. And also we have the trail rating system. So if the trail is very steep or very tough, we use this color, like brown and purple. And if the trail is very easy to walk, so we use the different colors. So to provide this kind of information, we can reduce the negligent accident for the public. Lastly, the result of park entrance fee abolition. The positive effect is definitely the welfare of the public has gone up. So we have more visitors for their recreation or refreshment, and still we provide better visitor service because now we have more manpower. And also the relative business sector, like hiking or camping, has been boomed up. But the negative effect is the government financial burden has got increased quite a lot. This is the change of our budget. So after the entrance fee was abolished, the budget has gone up quite rapidly. So it's all those are all for the burden for our government. And that's for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Hong. So Christelle is going to tell us about the measures undertaken in mountain areas. And then we're going to have a slot for questions regarding your presentation, Christelle's.
Perfect. I'm just looking how to share my my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
It's working.
It's working? Okay.
Yes.
I can't see you anymore, but I can see my presentation. Hopefully it will work. So my presentation is about tackling over-tourism in the nature reserves of Savoie. So I chose a few case studies so that it would be like very concrete cases around the Mont Blanc. To make it more real, this is mostly the area that the nature reserves cover. You have, so the climber there is looking at the Mont Blanc, and all around it you have like mountains that range from like valley floor all the way up to 4,000 meters. And the Mont Blanc is 4,800. And the nature reserve that we look after are going same from the valley floor all the way to 4,000 meters. So it's like a big diversity of ecosystems, and there are 9 different nature reserves that some of them are linked together like territorially, and some of them are completely detached from others. So like it's small entities of territories that we look after, and my job is to tackle visitor flows and also like look at the impacts of all the nature sports that happen on the territory. Because we are in a place of like Chamonix, which is like a city close to Mont Blanc, is very known for its alpine climb. So it's a very important place for alpinism, mountaineering. But the thing is, mountaineers tend to be not only mountaineers, but also climbers, mountain bikers, hikers, paragliders, and everything. So we have a very big diversity of outdoor activities happening all around and in the nature reserves, with different effects and impacts caused by these different activities and different ways to tackle it. We were talking about fencing the nature parks, the national parks. There is no way we could fence our nature reserves because like people access them from the air, from the ground, from the rock, from everywhere. So, and there's a lot of snow as well, so the fence wouldn't hold. So I chose a few different sites. The first one is the one you can see on this picture. It's a hiking trail that starts from the valley floor and go up towards a place called the end of the world. That tells you how wide and beautiful it is. And all around this path, there are like lots of waterfalls that people come and seek because because they're beautiful, and in winter because they're very good challenges for ice climbers. So just to give you an idea, that's the sort of data that we have. We use counters that would count the visitors that pass them. Like every time somebody passes, it's an infrared lens that will like get black and know there's a person that passed. And so our big season is during the summer holidays mostly. So from June to end of September, we have a lot of people, with a very big peak in end of July and August. And also like in winter, those counters don't work very well. So we don't really handle the winter data on it, except when it's placed, especially for winter. And so like in this place, you have about 115,000 people coming every summer and hiking on that trail and going around to the different waterfalls. So what do we do to tackle that sort of visitor flow? That's the path as it is, like the green thing is the path as it is. And we are currently working on a project to close some of the little paths. I don't know if you can see like the red and the yellow path and all the different lines there's on this map. But the idea is to have a main path and to create one direction of circulation for people so that they get to see the waterfalls, but maybe not all of them, and especially not create paths to go to all of them, because all this ecosystem around it is used for grazing for sheep, and is also like a very special place in terms of like humidity and temperatures and the quantity of sun rays it gets. So like if people start leaving the path and go all around, they will damage all those ecosystems all the way to the top here. And so we're trying to get them to stay on one main track that is like quite wide already for the number of visitors that there is, but also that is more clear than what it is now, because like people tend to just escape the trail and go out to see the waterfalls. The other thing we've noticed is that this behavior has been increased with like very hot summers that we might be experiencing more and more with climate change. So like the big action we're trying to get is to choose where people go and where they do not go by closing the path and maybe sometimes replanting small bushes and trees so that we're sure they're going to stick to the path and not see what's around it. Because we've noticed that the best barrier is a natural one, like of like very dense trees. Okay. I don't know why it's not changing. Yeah, here we are. The second site I chose is a lake that's pretty high in altitude in one of the other nature reserves, the Aiguille Rouge Nature Reserve. So the lake that you see on this picture has a direct view over the Mont Blanc and the whole Mont Blanc range, and is accessible by chairlift, meaning you don't have to hike a lot to get to a beautiful, very high place. The little houses that you see in the back are huts, mountain huts, that are owned by private owners, and those private owners are also the owners of the land where the lake is. So this is not public land, it's like privately owned land, but it is within a nature reserve, so we have like a relationship to those owners about how to handle the land and what we do on it. Just so that you know, this picture is a superposition of all the pictures that people have taken on Instagram about in like an hour at Lac Blanc. So it's not that busy, but it can be very, very busy. So, and like the high number of visitors, instead of being a good thing for the landowners and the hut owners, is starting to be like a source of tension for them. It was interesting to see that you got a decrease after COVID, because we got a crazy increase after COVID. So the pink line is COVID, and the black and green line is 2016 and 2017. And the increase in visitor flow has happened in all the nature reserves in Haute-Savoie, especially on places like this that are quite accessible and quite high, because people were looking for more like for wilder and and not unknown, but wilder, and also places that they heard of but never went to. So the Lac Blanc is one of those. So what has been done to tackle the increase of visitors at the Lac Blanc? Well, first there was we with the municipality that handles trails in the area increased the size of the trail, because the better the trail is maintained, the less visitors tend to go out of it and to take a wrong trail. So, and also that increases the carrying capacity of the land. Then we added human presence in the vulnerable ecosystems, meaning like we are going to the Lac, especially in the summer, there are people from the nature reserve going to the Lac Blanc at least 4 or 5 days a week to talk to visitors and make them aware of the ecosystems that are surrounding them, and also tell them what are the good and the bad practices that you could have in nature in those places. And we've been working a lot with local stakeholders. What's interesting is that years and years of working with the local stakeholders have like reached kind of a dead end this summer with the increased visitor flow, because the hut owners and the private land owners are like starting to be willing to create like a fee to enter or to get there, or like even a fee to access the city down in the valley so that there are less visitors. But what's interesting is that the increase in visitor flow has been paired with the increase of carrying capacity of the lift, because as I said, this is accessible by chairlift, and either you walk 4 hours from the valley ground, or you take the lift, pay 35 euros for the lift, and then walk 1 hour from the lift to the lake. So it's a bit of a contradictory approach of making it more accessible but wanting less people to go. And we don't have full control over the accessibility and when the lift is open or not and things like that. So we have to work with other stakeholders to kind of tackle what's happening there. Another example, I tried to take examples that are a bit different, and this is the Tour du Mont Blanc. So that's a very famous hike all around the Mont Blanc that goes through most of our nature reserves and also to other countries like Switzerland and Italy. So it's also a transnational topic. And the idea is that this Tour du Mont Blanc is very, very famous, especially among foreigners, and is the only place in the nature reserve where we've seen a decrease in visitor flow during the COVID years, because there was less access for international people because they couldn't travel as much, so they didn't come there. They didn't come to hike the Tour du Mont Blanc multiple days, and so there was a little decrease that has been offset by the numbers of people we've seen in 2022. So that's the characteristic of the Tour du Mont Blanc. It's basically like a multi-day hike that people do between like 1 day if you're Kilian Jornet, so a very fast runner, or 10 days if you're a normal hiker with a guide. And so it goes through like those nature reserves, so the Aiguille Rouge, the Carlavero Nature Reserve, and the Contamine Nature Reserve, and also through like protected areas in Switzerland and Italy. So the big thing is that most people that hike the Tour du Mont Blanc, especially foreigners, tend to do it with a international mountain leader, so a sort of mountain guide that will hike with them, take them from hut to hut, and tell them which trail to use and what to do in the mountains. It's hiked by multiple thousands of people throughout the summer of different nationalities, and it is one of the main economic activities for international mountain leaders. So it's quite a very important source of income for local people. So what do we do to try to get visitors to do the right thing on the Tour du Mont Blanc? First, we have a training that's aimed at professionals so that they give the right message on how to behave in nature, basically on multi-days hike. And because people have started to notice that it is very, very busy on the Tour du Mont Blanc, they've been looking for other multi-day hikes around the same area. So like still with a view on the Mont Blanc range, but a bit different, a bit wider. And that's like the local guiding companies have proposed alternatives to the Tour du Mont Blanc, like this is the Tour du Val Montjoie. It's another little valley next to it. It's a bit shorter, but it's quite nice, and it revolves on like local huts again and like local stakeholders. So it's like an alternative economic activities that would like reduce the flow of tourists on the main Tour du Mont Blanc. And then like we implement a lot of communication, and of course we've got special rules in the nature reserve about like fires and BVs and littering and a lot of others, and that's something that we have to communicate a lot about on those trails that are very that are like used by so many people. And also we're facing a bit of some challenges with multilingual communication, because most of the people that work on the field can speak French and English, but usually you also meet with people that don't speak those two languages. So we have to kind of think our communication as a more like universal way, for instance, using pictograms. And then one last case study I think that I wanted to present is the very popular winter outings in the nature reserves. You can see on this picture, it's a ski touring area. So here they're outside of the nature reserve, but on the other side of this pass, just right there at the top, they're gonna start going down in the nature reserve of the Aiguille Rouge, close to Chamonix. And as you can see on this picture, there are lots and lots of people that do this ski touring outing quite often during the winter. And the other side is full of ibex and chamois and lots of wildlife that are like quite vulnerable in winter. That's the sort of data analysis that we do. We have like when it's not good to go because of avalanches, when it's okay to go, and you can see the increase of visitors when it's okay. But you also see that sometimes it's not very good to be there, but people are still there, and that there's like some human presence in those areas, even when there's supposed to be nobody, because it's very dangerous to go out because of the snow conditions. And we've seen, same as in other places, we've seen a very big increase in visitor flow in those areas following COVID, especially since the lifts were closed. So lots of people started ski touring and started going into these more like these wider areas. So the main thing we've managed to do in winter is to share the space between outdoor activities and wildlife, meaning like we've established some quiet zones and we're asking the skiers to remain out of them. Don't know if you can see on the side of this picture, there's a ski track. The person who's going down that ridge is okay. They're not in the protected area, in the quiet zone. And on the other side of this line, that's a quiet zone where you have black grouses, which is a protected species that's suffering a lot at the moment. The population are decreasing quite a bit. So we're trying to keep them quiet in the winter because they really need that moment they really need to not be disturbed during the winter months. And we also have to keep an eye on how practices evolve. Like, so ski touring has been increasing in the recent years. And we're also seeing combinations of skiing and paragliding that are taking people to new areas. So for instance, if you look at those places in the back, like there used to be not many skiers going there because it's quite dangerous in terms of avalanches. But now people are like combining multiple sports together. So they're looking for new areas to do everything. Like for instance, go mountaineering, then fly off, then ski down. And so there are like humans going everywhere. So a big part of my job is to know what's going to be the next trend in outdoor sports and where it's going to take people in the nature reserve and in nature spaces in general. We had an interesting conversation about carrying capacity already, but so I just wanted to raise the topic because it's an interesting one. That's like the clues of over-tourism that we've measured in on some of the trails in the nature reserves. So like it means like that's a normal mountain trail, and that's like what happens when that trail is too small for the number of people visiting it. So that's one of the clues. That's another one of the clues that's on like very erodable land. So like it's both part of the soil, the nature of the soil to get very eroded, but it's also like there are lots of people hiking there and like digging multiple trails, and then or sometimes it just gets enlarged like this one. And so what we've noticed is that the carrying capacities of most our ecosystems would be much lower than what we have now, but it's not socially acceptable to reduce it because we live in a region where most people live out of mountain tourism, so hikers, skiers, and everything. And so, yeah, there's a big question mark on how to reduce the visitor flows in a socially acceptable way for local stakeholders. If you have any questions, do not hesitate.
Thank you, Christelle, for this very concrete presentation.
Ton
Maybe Korea can start the questions now, if they're okay. Hong, would you like to start the questions from your side?
Yeah. More, this is not the question, but I have some commentation to this PT by Christelle. As you guys studying on working on the collecting the entrance fee, I suggest you to collect the entrance fee only first at the vulnerable area, like a core area or ecologically sensitive area like Savoia or the top of the mountain, or where the very core area for the ecosystem. You can start to collect the money at those areas, because you have you can justify why we should collect the money to protect the cities, to protect the sensitive ecosystem of the French National Park. So you can start from the core area, collecting the money in core area, and also I saw I remember there were many people, many visitors during the August in the Lapland, wherever. So it is also it will have a good effect on dispersing the dispersing the visitors by collecting the entrance fee or any kind of fee during the peak time. So then the people will dispersed. They will collecting the money on peak time, just to October or August, from July to August. Then the people want, if they don't want to pay the fee, they will have a holiday in July, the January or February, whatever. So it can have also a good effect on dispersing the visitors. And it can also give the good effect on the ecosystem. And if you start, and this is I'm worrying about your collecting the money in this point about stakeholders of your local community. If the visitors numbers are going down, if going down, the money they can earn from the visitor, the local community, their revenue will be going down as the visitor numbers going down. So the stakeholders, they might be objective to your fee collecting this policy. That is what I am worrying about. That's it.
Yeah, what is interesting at the moment is that it's more the local stakeholders, so the hut guardian and the landowners that want to put a fee. It's not us, because we are trying to approach this question by giving everybody access to nature, and especially in the mountains, every outdoor person in the mountains thinks like have a very like free approach, meaning like you've always been free to access the mountains, and accessing a mountaintop is based on freedom, basically. So they are very against fees and fences and things like that, except the landowners that are seeing their land being like depleted or like damaged by visitors. So it's interesting because they are both the ones that benefit from the number of visitors and the ones that want to reduce it. So we are like kind of in between, like we do what they want, what the landowners want, or do we stay with our policy of giving access to nature? And we are somewhere in between. We thought that communicating and being like having a big presence on the site would help by making people aware of the vulnerable ecosystems. But apparently we are there, like for instance, from 9 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, but that is not enough. As soon as we go away, people start doing things that will damage the ecosystem. So yeah, we haven't exactly found the solution, but we don't know if a fee would be the good solution.
Anyway,
I believe it's a question of balance also, because yes, you're right. Tourism in mountainous areas in France is a really big part of the economy. But on the other hand, if tourism is out of control and there are way too much people in these areas, there's also problem of social acceptance for tourism, and we've started to see that in a few places in France where natural areas have been overcrowded, especially after COVID. So I believe it's also a question of balance, and also the question of local acceptance of the measures that we try to implement is really important, because in France there are a few natural reserves that have entrance fees, and most of the people and most of the tourists kind of accept this because they think it's a contribution to the protection of the nature areas they visit. But it can be more difficult for the locals, because they feel like they tend to have a feeling of deposition of land they feel they own in some kind of way. So yeah, I believe it's a question of balance, but it's also really difficult to find the right balance. So yeah, we'll keep trying.
yes, park management is always difficult to balance the conservation and utilization. Is always difficult. We are as a park ranger, we are doing a very hard job, right? Huh? Just joking.
So actually, in the mountain, and you said there's a hut and the owner of the land. So like to regulate or to reduce the number of visitors, kind of you have to regulate their life or their business. So in that case, do you compensate for them? If you have a policy to reduce the visitors, do you compensate with and for the the owner of the land or not?
For now, no, like we haven't started doing that, and it's more like we would try to find a solution that would not be detrimental to their income. For instance, like the same landowner also have sheep grazing there. So like what they want is less tourists to have better grazing pasture for their sheep. So like they would also gain something from reducing the visitor flow. They will like sell a few less coffees and pies, but they would probably gain something from it. And anyway, they're asking for a reduction of the visitor flow. So I don't know if they realize why it will change if like people start paying for going there or things like that. But for now, they're asking for it. So I think it's not just our decision. It will be a decision that we have to take with the local municipality and with those landowners, because being a landowner gives you a lot of power and rights on the land. And even if it's within a nature reserve, they're still like they can still make up rules on their own plots. So it's like it's a discussion in between the three of us, basically.
Yeah, I believe this example is really interesting because it shows the importance to put all the stakeholders around the table and to find a solution together, because this is the key to have this social acceptance and to find this this balance, I think.
And I will make sure to present your experience in Korea about putting a fee and then taking it out later, because I think because it's never been implemented in France, people think like having an entrance fee is the solution to everything. But like it's sometimes hard to present all the implications of putting up an entrance fee. So I'll definitely use your experience.
In protected area, regulation is necessary. And Christelle and Corentin also mentioned about regulating rules or infrastructure regulation. And I wonder if there were any complaints from public, because I think in Korea National Park, complaints from public is also one of the issue when we manage our park. So I was wondering about it.
About complaints about what? Sorry.
If you regulate people in the park, I am wondering if they have some complaints.
Yes. It's quite interesting because some local stakeholders ask us to regulate more and some ask us to stop the regulation. There's, for instance, in most nature reserves, it's forbidden to take your dog. And like there's a place where there's somebody with a dog that keeps breaking our signs about not taking your dog to the nature reserve. And so that every dog owner can say, I didn't see the sign, it's not up there. So like it's the more we rule as a nature reserve, the more like rules we try to implement, the more people see us as like depriving them of their freedom. But sometimes they ask for more rules, and if they come from somewhere else, if they come from like the municipality, or if they come from the local, the private landowners, they're more acceptable than if they come from nature protection. So it's a difficult balance, and we're always trying to get everyone behind the rule we're making, but there's always somebody who disagrees with it. So, for instance, we don't have a rule for swimming in the altitude lakes. It's not something that is forbidden, but we're telling people that it's bad for the lakes. And a lot of local landowners want to have that as a complete interdiction so that nobody swims in the lake. And but if we show up and say nobody can swim in the lake, it's a nature reserve rule, they would not be happy about it. So it's always like it has to come from a diversity of partners to be acceptable socially.
I was asking because we have the same problem or question about balancing them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like making new rules is very difficult.
Just to build on what Christelle just said, in many places, more and more now, we are starting to give messages that are not saying the nature reserves forbids to do this or this, but the private owners of the land ask you to respect the site and blah, blah, blah. But the signs are, of course, made by the nature reserve, but then the message is more as seen as coming from the local landowners.
Of course, we have also the same issues in finding balance between rules and freedom of access. But I guess, for instance, if I refer to the booking system we set up this summer in Parc National des Calanques, it was a new rule, it was a new constraint, and in the end, it was very well accepted. And I guess one of the main points to enforce new rules is the preparation of a new rule. It's the phase before enforcing the new rules. So in the case of Calanques, we spent nearly 1 year having thorough discussion in our conseil d'administration of the park with local stakeholders. We've spent 1 year communicating on the enforcement of a future rule, explaining why, making some sense of this new rule. And it did not arrive from the sky, like out of the blue. And I guess this work in preparation was crucial to get this effect and this appreciation from the visitors. If I may, just some reflection on fees, and I was astonished to see in your presentation that when you stop asking for an entrance fee, the government compensates the budget through new and additional allocation from the national budget, and it's wow, it's just incredible. And for unfortunately in France, we often think about fees not as a way to tackle overcrowding, but also as a way to relieve budget constraints, because the funding of biodiversity and protected areas in France is we don't play in the same world as you. And for instance, national parks, it's 800 people, not 3,000. Our total budget is $70 million. So, and our superficie is 10 times bigger than yours. So we are much poorer than Korean national parks. And I think we can say that national parks are the rich guy in France regarding over protected area networks. So there's a huge need for additional public funding in protected area in France, and I'm afraid of a debate where a fee would be the only fee as a way to get some new funding, and I think it would be a bad way to enforce fee in France. We should. Well, there's currently no plan at national level to get some fees, but if it would be only for budgets reason, it would be really, I guess, it would be a mistake, and in the end, it wouldn't work. The thinking currently to get some new and additional funding for protected areas in France is more related to new taxes on activities related to protected areas. So, for example, a tax on outdoor material, on skis, on hiking shoes, stuff like that. So it would be a parallel way to get some new funding for protected areas.
Yeah. Yes, it is almost time for today, and hopefully we're going to have another chance to have a good secondary meeting. And last weekend on Korean TV, I saw a report on the climate change of your country. There was a big glacier 100 years ago, and the train comes in, and they can see the La Mer de Glacier or something like that. And nowadays, due to the climate change, the glaciers are getting melted down, and so if you want to go to see the glacier, you need to go down more and more. So as the French has a beautiful nature, especially about the Alps, mountainous Alps, alpine area. So it is related to the glacier and also to the climate change. The climate change may could have people can understand the acknowledge that our climate change is a very big problem to us when they visiting the national park of your French national park like Savoie or some other high level mountain, big mountain. They can learn and acknowledge the problem of the climate change. So if they can get the awareness about the importance of keeping the ecosystem as strongly and sound as before, if you guys have measures for controlling the visitors, like reservation or collecting the money fee, or have some lottery or first come first serve policy, any kind of there are some ways of measures that you can take. So I hope that you can have a good answer for your so this mixed problem. That is what I feel today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we had really interesting exchanges and discussions. Climate change was one of the subjects we had identified with Hong. I'm talking about adaptation of protected areas to climate change. So maybe it's a subject that we can continue to explore together if all of you are interested. But for the moment, we truly thank you for the time you spent, for the very instructive presentations. Together with Hong, we will maybe share your presentations if that's okay with everyone, and share the recording of today. And we'll keep in touch to find other subjects that we can discuss together and continue to share experience and best practices between our countries. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.